Noon. This is the Athens, or April 2nd, 2020 meeting of the Athens City Planning Commission. We are online today due to the virus, and all members but one are present with Tom Pyle as a substitute for Andy Stone. So let's see, a quorum has been established. Disposition of minutes, since Nancy is apparently not available.
Looks like she's on.
Oh, is she on now?
Looks like it.
Okay. We have the disposition of minutes for January 16, and that would be for Christy, Nancy, and the mayor to look at and approve. I have to abstain. So are there any questions about the January 16th disposition of minutes? Is there a motion to accept the minutes?
I so move.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I can't hear Nancy, so did Nancy say yes on that? Okay. If she's on, I'm going to assume she said yes. So moving things along. Let's see, Scott, is Nancy available? No, I don't have Scott.
We are trying to figure out what's going on with her connection. It says it's connected, but we're not hearing either Ryan or I, so we're not
Okay.
sure what's going on.
Yeah, we're not hearing her either, Scott.
Okay.
Okay. We can come back to the disposition of minutes maybe a little bit later. And if she's still not available, then we'll just go ahead and table. Is that acceptable to everyone? Okay. The cases today, case number 20-04, the preliminary site plan reviews for East Elementary School PK through 3 at 3 Wallace Drive. And Mr. Riggs, do you care to update us just again, give a little bit of a review? I see Dr. Gibbs, hello.
Hi.
And go ahead, David, if you want to go ahead and give us just an update again, just to remind our audience about the case.
Sure, thank you. We came at the last meeting and had this as a communication. We did put the public notice out for public to review and comment. We did not receive any comments from the public that I'm aware of. I think that most all of the comments that the staff had have been addressed for East Elementary. So I think we're in good shape with this project.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions that the Planning Commission members have for Dr. Gibbs or Mr. Riggs?
I don't have anything.
Okay.
I don't have anything.
Would there be then a motion to accept the site plans?
I move.
And was that a second, Mayor? See, Mayor's dropped out on my audio.
It looks like his
You're
mic.
muted, Mayor. There you
There
go.
we go.
Okay.
Thank you. Forever changing. I was just going to suggest offering the opportunity for Dr. Gibbs to speak a little bit to this if he wishes to.
Sure. Dr. Gibbs, would you care to speak?
Sure. I'd be happy to give you a little bit of an update. Russilli Construction has moved forward. We're at 99% on the final plans for the building. They've moved forward with the bidding out for the project. So we're hoping at our April 16th board meeting, presuming that you all approve the site plan, we're hoping at our April 16th school board meeting to approve the GMPs for all of the work at East, and to hopefully start work on that project in May. So.
Okay, thank you. And then you'll stay with us through communications, correct? As far as updating us about Morrison Gordon.
Sure, if you'd like.
Okay, great. I'm sorry, did we have a motion to accept the review?
I
Okay,
move
a
for
second.
approval.
All in favor, say aye.
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 So that's at least 3 in favor. Again, Nancy is still, I guess we're having difficulty there. So at least we had the quorum to approve that.
Thank you.
So, thank you. We'll move on to communications. And while Dr. Gibbs is with us here, the Morrison Gordon Middle School. Mr. Riggs, do you care to introduce this?
Yes, thank you. This is Morrison Gordon Elementary School for communication. We have had some review of the site, and one of the things that just came up recently was John Cohen with ODOT District 10 has asked for a traffic analysis to be performed on this site because they're working on a bridge deck on State Route 56 West Union, and they need some additional information or are requesting additional information. So we would ask that a traffic analysis be performed at this site. Traffic analysis, as you know, is much different from a traffic study. A traffic analysis is quicker and cheaper, and I think it could be performed pretty quickly, but it does need to perform underneath the ODOT's traffic management manual.
Would that also include study as far as traffic lights or things of that nature as well?
What we're primarily looking for, what ODOT is primarily looking for here is flow in and out. So this will be left turn, or right turns going out and right turns coming in, because the bridge is to I believe it's to the east of the site that they're going to be working on.
Okay.
David, can I ask a question?
Yes.
My understanding of trying to read the email threads was that there was some consideration for adding a lane to the bridge to provide a turn lane in that area. Is that accurate?
Yeah, this is for safety reasons that ODOT is asking for this traffic analysis, and that's so that they can figure out if they do need that additional turn lane across the bridge.
Yeah.
There would be funds. I think there would be funds available for safe lanes to schools. I think that's what it is. So that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
So that would also include the ability for through traffic to continue and not be held up by people turning into the site, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Are there any other questions at this time for Dr. Gibbs or Mr. Riggs?
I think Dr. Gibbs started to have a comment there.
Dr. Gibbs?
Yeah, if you don't mind. So we do already have a company that we went through the RFQ process early on to identify a company to do traffic studies, things of that nature. So we should be able to get this started right away. It's the first I'm hearing of it, but we'll get it started right away. I do believe that we had GMPs for initial site work that we were hoping to get approved in April. Is that something that we can move forward with, or does this slow down our project at all, or it just kind of runs parallel to it?
Mayor or Mr. Riggs, do you want to speak to that?
So the next step for you would be to come back to Planning Commission after the communication. We have to do is we have to have at least 2 weeks public notification. So it's usually pretty tough for us to get back-to-back Planning Commission meetings on this. We can really certainly try to do that. Once you have Planning Commission's blessing, then you'll need to get your permits for the zoning and curb cuts and all of that, and we'll try to expedite that as much as possible for you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, anything there? Does that cover it?
No, just to echo what David Riggs was just saying, and that is that we can certainly work to expedite some things through to get things rolling. We know the time crunch that you're under.
Thank you.
Terrific. Does anybody have any other questions or comments from Dr. Gibbs?
I don't have a question for Dr. Gibbs, but I did have a question for David. David, when I was speaking with Andy last night, he had asked me about or indicated or filled me in about some drainage issues coming off of the TS Tech property and wanting to tie that in if it was feasible with the drainage from the new school. Did you know anything about that?
A little bit. I don't know what exactly service director was indicating on that, but we can work together and get some comments back quickly.
Okay.
I hop in on that one. Do you mind?
Sure.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so we're aware. Our team's aware of that concern. It's actually the property that we're trying to buy that currently belongs to the church. But to be honest, we haven't yet been able to purchase that property because it has something to do with how there's a city ordinance having to do with parcels that can't be accessed directly from a street or a throughway. So we're having to go through all the steps to attach it to the existing property of ours. But in any case, once we own that property, it's our intention to put a water collection kind of runoff ponded area there that'll be fenced in that would decrease the amount of immediate runoff into the creek back that way. And what I know Andy was talking about with me is that there's some drainage that runs down from the adjoining property that right now it's backed up, that there's a lot of sediment right there on that what's currently the church property. So we're aware of that, and while we have our crews back there, it's our intention to clean that out as best we can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Glenn Decker, Sands Decker. Yeah, I just want to reiterate what Tom just said. We've been looking at that. We've got some additional topographic mapping information that we recently took based on discussion with Bob Hetty. And I'm about to share that information with Bob. It's a poorly drained area, mostly concerning with the existing culvert underneath the railroad to the east of the property. So I'm not sure we've got a solution because that culvert seems to be lower than any of the outlets, but Bob Hetty did ask us to look into it, and I've got that information now. I just haven't shared it with him yet.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm aware of the issue as well. So thanks for everyone working on that.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions regarding this particular communication for Dr. Gibbs or anyone else? Okay. Thank you, Dr. Gibbs. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Mr. Riggs, we have the communication for Herald Avenue, the major subdivision.
Yes, thank you. This is on Herald Avenue. This is a Bowen property. Actually, it's been transferred, but there are proposed to be 3 new tracts that will be developed in this major subdivision with the inclusion of some right-of-way that will be transferred to the city so that we can extend Herald Avenue. And we also found while we were doing this research that there was an existing alley that the existing Hoon building is sitting on top of, and this would also vacate that alley.
Okay. Where does technically Herald end in that bend?
If you, it keeps going north and runs into the parcel.
There's the townhouses.
Yeah, those are on the west. It goes past those and past the Hoon building. Probably 100 feet past the Hoon building. But then it's going to turn to the east and to north, a little bit northeast. It's going to turn to the east and run along the back of that line near the old railroad track.
Okay, there's like a pond back in there. Is that?
Yeah, that's a stormwater detention basin, and that drains several private developments to the west. As part of this proposed plan, the city is going to put some storm sewer lines in. If they do that, we may be able to drain that detention basin and make that as a saleable, developable lot.
Okay, thanks. Because I know there's no fencing around that water body, that body of water, and I just always wondered about the safety of it, especially like around the fairgrounds and stuff like that. So
It would be really nice to get rid of it, and I could see it happening because this would become a valuable tract of land to sell. So I could see that happening soon.
okay, terrific. When were they proposing coming back with that for a case?
What I have to do after this is to, like we said before, is to post the property for 2 weeks. So
Okay.
the soonest I could get back there to do that would likely be May for this project.
Okay. Are there any questions for Mr. Riggs or anyone else involved? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Riggs. Appreciate it. Let's move on to reports from the city planner. Good afternoon, Mr. Logue.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well in their new office environments. Just 2 items this afternoon. The first is just a reminder that yesterday was National Census Day, and most of us should have received mailers by now, and I encourage everybody to please complete your census forms if you haven't done so already. We are tracking, I've been serving on the Athens County Complete Counts Committee for the last 5-6 months now, I believe. We are tracking, and we can track everybody who submitted online the Census Bureau updates daily, what the status is for states, cities, and census blocks. Just so everybody's aware, for the state of Ohio, Ohio has a return rate right now of 41.7% as of yesterday evening, whereas the city of Athens is at 35.1%. We do have two of our census tracts that are really low. Both of those are the off-campus student neighborhoods. One of those at 18.2%, and the other one is at 24.7%. The rest of the city is more or less on track with the state averages. The Census Bureau has extended the online opportunity. It was supposed to close at the end of April. However, they've extended that into June, I believe now, maybe even the middle of July. And so there's a lot more opportunity for people to complete it online because the Census Bureau does not want to send out door-to-door enumerators right now. But they are required under the Constitution to submit this, to do a census every 10 years. And so they did not have an option of suspending the census for year 2020. And so by all means, everybody should be participating. We are still working closely with the off-campus student neighborhoods and Ohio University to communicate with all of the students who are currently at home with their parents. Under census regulations and under guidelines, they should be completing their census forms as Athens residents because they are considered displaced based on an emergency order, but they should be living in Athens, and they are living in Athens for more than half the time. So that's a challenge that we were not expecting. The off-campus neighborhoods in Athens and the other college towns around the state as well as the country typically have some of the lowest response rates of any census tracts in the country. And so it's even more, it's a bigger challenge now than we've ever had as far as trying to get the word out to them. Hopefully, since so many of them are in general, they're a lot more plugged in than the older generations, including myself. Hopefully they are more salient and paying attention to messaging on their phones and online to complete those census forms. So we are working hard to try to get that happening. We are seeing some slight upticks, but at 18% or 19% right now, the 2010 census, those neighborhoods only had a response rate of 45%, whereas the city as a whole had about 75% response rate before they would send the enumerators out door to door. So hopefully we can get that resolved. The other item I wanted to give everybody a heads up on, the comprehensive plan. We do have a draft that just a text-only draft that I would like to start distributing next week. Of course, based on our current situation, that plan was really, it's an aspirational document. And it was, the questions that we asked and the conversations that we had around that plan and the information that we were looking at was for a situation that's a lot different than the one that we're all facing today. And so I'm not going to ask City Council for, what I'd like to do is get it out for public distribution so people can review it and give comment back. But I don't think it's appropriate for us to be taking forward and asking the Planning Commission or City Council to adopt such a plan right now. I think the best path forward would be to allow the public to review it, provide feedback, and then once we return to a new normal per se, I'm not sure what the right thing to say, but once we get back to where we are more or less living the lives we were living before, hopefully we get that point in the next several months. We can start having discussions about what was missed in that plan. I think we're talking about some things right now, and we're becoming aware of things that we really did not discuss in that planning process, resiliency being a big one, but also our preparedness for something like that we're going through right now. But it's also bringing in line a lot of the issues that we were already talking about in that plan, the need for broadband. How can we have meetings like this? How can people be expected to work from home and buy things online and shop online and get deliveries to their home if they don't have adequate access to broadband? How can students be getting their education right now? Real problems in this region and in the city of Athens. And so some of those things I think are still are still relevant. I do think a lot of our guiding principles are still really relevant. The need to need to have a lot of a diversity of local businesses, I think, is a really important one. We know that that's needed, still needed today. To have good neighborhoods, to have sufficient places for us to get exercise and walking and safe traffic, et cetera, and all of those issues. So that should be coming out. I'll make sure that all the planning commissioners are aware via email, and I'll be posting to the city's website and working with our government channel folks to help with the social media messaging on that.
Okay.
That's all I have. If anybody has questions for me, by all means, shoot away.
Any comments or questions for Mr. Logue? Okay. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Mr. Riggs?
The only thing I have is we will try to get Morris and Gordon, if you guys are ready for that, on the April 16th Planning Commission meeting for a vote so they can get moving along with their permits. Herald Avenue, I'd really like to hold off until the May 7th meeting. And then we had some conversations about Mill Irons PUD. That, as far as I know, is on hold at this point. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Any comments or questions for Mr. Riggs?
I had a quick one, if I may.
Sure.
David, do you know, just curious about any construction projects around town, if Menards was still moving forward, if you have any update on that, or if any of the other projects were still under construction?
Yes, most of the construction projects are still underway. The MOB for Oblenis is moving forward. It's right next to us, so I see it almost every day. The Menards, I haven't looked this week, but I know they were working last week. I know Aldi's.
I saw workers out there yesterday, so.
Okay. The Aldi's remodel is going forward, so there's a lot of construction still out there that's moving forward. That's one of the job descriptions that's exempt from the governor's order, as we all know.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else for Mr. Riggs?
I do have an update along those lines of construction. The contractors for the Northwest Bike Path Spur have stopped work as allowed by ODOT. The tree removals has taken place, and that had been completed before April 1st, which was the deadline, but the erosion control, that will also be maintained, but that project is on hold.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let's see, this is normally the occasion for opportunity for citizens to speak. So I don't know if there's anybody who's been watching online that has any questions.
RJ, we don't have anybody who's watching online at this moment.
Okay, thank you. Announcements and other business?
I do. I want to echo I want to echo some of what Paul Logue had mentioned, and these are extraordinary and trying times, and we're trying as best we can to deploy extraordinary measures as we move forward. I would just encourage people to continue to adhere to the stay-at-home directive that has come down from the governor. I think the governor is doing a great job in helping the state manage everything that's going on. Again, I would encourage people to continue to social distance. Certainly get out and take walks with your family, especially when it's nice, but please, be mindful to not congregate. We will be enforcing the limit of gatherings over 10. I personally think that the gatherings should be even less than that, but adhering to that as well, please do so. If you're using the bike path or you're walking through the neighborhoods, just again, maintain a 6-foot distance from each other and be mindful of that with the social distancing. I would also encourage people who live in some of the areas in the city that don't have sidewalks. For those who are out walking, I'm hopeful that drivers are mindful of the fact that there are a lot of people. My wife and my 2 daughters were walking the Far East neighborhood just to get some exercise, and noticed that the cars that were driving through there, I think, were pretty much being mindful of the fact that there are pedestrians who are walking about so that people don't experience cabin fever. But please, if you're driving in the Oakmont area, if you're driving other areas, like I said, that don't have sidewalks or have limited sidewalks, just be mindful that there are people out and about wanting to get out and get exercise and fresh air. To keep your speed limits low. Keep it lower than that's posted, please. It's certainly helpful for those who are again, out and about. Wash your hands, don't touch your face. It's amazing to think that we touch our faces on average 900 times a day. And if you're feeling sick, if you are not feeling well, contact your primary care provider and follow your primary care provider's directive as to what to do. They will make the call as to whether or not someone needs to be tested, and as opposed to, trying to go down to somewhere to be tested. At least notify them if you do feel that you need to come in and be seen by your primary care provider. So those are the simple directives as we go forward. So please adhere to them so that we all come through the other side together. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Scott, have we gotten connection with Nancy yet?
No, we were never able. At one point, I think she raised her hand in a vote, but then we lost her completely. I think she just hung up.
Okay. So I would make a motion then that we table the disposition of the approval of the minutes for January 16th and March 5th. Would there be a second?
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And I think Christy was an aye. Great. So that's three in favor and 1 absent, we'll call it, and 1 unable to make a vote on that. So our next meeting will be April 16, 2020. And with the work of the Athens City Planning Commission completed, this meeting stands adjourned. Thank you very much.